Good morning. No, hello. Not good morning. Sorry. Take that back. Scratch that. Hello, Facebook people, world. Glad to be here again for my 13th day of my 30-day, 13th or 14th. I don't know, but tomorrow is a special day. And I'm going to tell you all about that toward the end of this today, which I always say goes 30 minutes. Never does, always goes over. So much to talk about. We could probably talk about these subjects till the cows come home. Okay, so for those of you who are joining me for the first time, welcome. Glad you're here. I'm Susanna, your resident narcissist recovery coach, helping one woman at a time get over her narcissistic ex for good. I help more than one woman at a time, actually, so that's kind of not true, but you get the point. And when I say for good, I mean for good, forever, for always, for infinite. We're done. Okay, yay, welcome, Emily. It's her first time watching. So I'm Susanna. I already said that. My name's right there. And today we're to already put my essential oils on. People been sniffing them because we got a topic today. I mean, I guess everything, whenever we're talking about a narcissist, it's heavy shit, right? Because we got to go there. It's not pleasant. It's not fun. It's not like, yeah, it's just heavy. We know that. So deep breath. We're going to dive in because today is a big, heavy topic. And for those of you who have joined me the past few days, I have talked a lot about all of the parts of the recovery and healing process and how I'm in a place of I speak from my scars, not from my open wounds, right? So I always put that out there because I don't want, when I share my own story, one of the things that I do not want, and this is not a reason I'm doing it, is because I just want to let everybody know I'm okay. You please don't feel sorry for me. There's nothing to feel sorry for me for. Maybe a few years ago, I could have used your sympathy. But I'm good now. This is why I'm in a position to talk about these heavy things. It's because of that. It's because I'm in a place of 100% emotional freedom and detachment. That does not mean I don't feel anything. So one of the things that I mentioned was that because when we get to a place of emotional freedom, what we have are scars. Our open wounds have turned into scars, right? So we still see them. You still look at a scar and you're like, oh yeah, I remember that when that happened to me. You remember it, but it's not, you can poke it and it doesn't hurt or anything. It may be a little tender still. And the memory may make you a little bit sad, but so I had made the claim that I have no open wounds at all. And then I thought of my kids, and then I had to admit a couple days ago that it's not a fresh gash, people. Okay, it's not. But I will admit that it hasn't scarred over yet, this wound, because in some ways it's in smaller ways it's still happening. We're still dealing with it. I'm still dealing with the after effects of what happens when you have children with a narcissist and all the hell that follows. Okay, so we're just gonna dive in, and for all of you who are just joining or will join, please stay. I have I don't have to wait till the end. Anyway, tomorrow is a huge day. It's gonna be super fun, at least for me. You can watch because I will be very excited, but something big is happening and I want to share it with you all. Has to do with my book, which is not coming out in bookstores until next year, like in Barnes & Noble officially. But something may happen tomorrow where, you know, I may have an in there. So, and then I may do something about it. Anyway, I hope you'll tune in tomorrow. Okay. Here we go. Get comfortable. We are, excuse me, we're talking today about what it is to co-parent. I'll tell you why I use the quotes for that. Co-parent with a narcissist. Many of you have already figured out that there is no such thing. No such thing. Look it up. Google it. Google co-parent. That's what I did when I very first started. Like, how am I going to do this? Right? I knew he was a narcissist, but this was all fresh. I'm like, how do I co-parent? Yeah, no, there's no such thing. That's what it'll pop up over and over again. No such thing of co-parenting with a narcissist. Just like when you were in the relationship or in the marriage, there was no such thing as co-anything because the narcissist is just in it for himself. Right? So no different. Yesterday we talked about the divorce process with a narcissist. Same thing there. There's no co-anything. In a divorce, they're like, a narcissist is like, I'm going to take you down in a ball of flames if I can and watch you go down and suffer as I stand back and smirk at you. I'm not exaggerating. Ball of flames. So there's no co-anything with a narcissist. This is why, and you know me, I'm going back. I have a hard time talking and reading comments at the same time, but that's what I'm doing. That's where you see my eyes going. This is the reason why this is the hardest thing to deal with as a parent, as a mother, is because you put your children first. You put their well-being first. You put them as a priority, right? Their pain hurts you. That's why my wound is still, it hasn't quite totally scarred over, okay? Because I can handle, when it comes to me, I can handle whatever he throws at me. No problem. Bat it back, throw it, whatever. I can handle it. When it affects my kids, that's tough. Because the problem is that if you have to share parenting with a narcissist, if you can even have custody and they're living with you and whatever, but you still have to maintain contact, they still have to go visit, all of that stuff. So that's where the pain comes in, because you are powerless you're not powerless to do something about it, the pain that your children go through and feel. You're not powerless about that, but you are powerless to stop a narcissist from what he's doing, okay? So you're powerless in that. That's where my pain comes from, for example, is that I can't, over the years, and it used to be much worse. Thankfully, out of my 3 kids, only the youngest has any contact with him. We'll talk about that in a minute. So that's where the pain comes in, is that because over the years, watching the deliberate attempt to use the children to get at me, punish me, hurt me, whatever it is, without any care as to how it was affecting the children. That's why you're powerless to that extent. You're not powerless to help your children. And there's some key things to do when it comes to your kids. And if you do have questions about your specific situation, please put them in the comments. I'm trying to keep up with, I don't see any questions yet. But like, if you have like a specific question. Okay, let's dive in. Let's just go there. All right, so I wrote down, just so I wouldn't forget, because there's actually more stuff that we don't have time to talk about today. I wish it would take hours and hours. But I'm going to give you some basic, that's why I'm just switching back and forth here, because I made notes on my computer. There are some basic things that you can do. Now, my advice is not coming from, I'm not a child psychologist, okay? I've seen one. My kids have seen one, but I'm not one. So that's not where the position that I'm coming from today. I'm coming from the position of my youngest is 16, my oldest is 26. Out of my 3 children, I've watched them go all through to varying degrees their own pain and their own journey. Of course, I'm not going to speak about anything in particular because that's their story to share. But I'm coming from it at a place where I have learned what works. I have learned ways to help alleviate their pain. I have learned ways to cope with and deal with the narcissist. So that's, yes, so Bonnie's pointing out, I just read her comment that, because I was talking about how, you know, my wound is still fresh. It's not totally open, as she's saying, it's more like a scab. Yes, it is. It is. That's when it comes to my kids. Everything else, I got scars all over. You name it, I got scars. That's fine. I'm good with all those. But then I have this one that's on my heart. Don't feel sorry for me. That's not why I'm telling you this. I just want to tell you that you're not alone out there if you have the same thing, is that it is like a scab, right? That is still very much tender and very, and sometimes, you know, the scab is like part of it is picked off or whatever. So I'll get there. We'll all get there. We're going to make it through this. Yes, like she says, because it still hurts a little, then all of a sudden, you know, one of your kids or something reminds you, or they say something, or and you remember, or you can see either the pain that they're going through or the confusion, or anyway. Yeah, that hurts. Doesn't feel good. I don't like it. I wish I could make it all go away. I wish it was Jeannie and I could do that, or I wish I could wiggle my nose like Samantha and make it all go away. It's not going away. It's not changing. It is getting less. And like I said, that's what I'm sharing with you today is I do have some things to tell you that will help. Because I know, like I see in the comments, that for those who are, you know, hurting terribly for your children. So you're not alone. You're not alone. All right. So whatever, if you're still going through a divorce process or whatever else, maybe you've figured out custody, whatever place you're in, there are certain things to follow when you are not co-parenting. It's called parallel parenting, right? And the reason it's called parallel parenting, first of all, because you can't co with a narcissist, can't co, nothing. So you have to parallel. I would argue that you are parallel parenting. What a narcissist does, I don't consider parenting. I don't consider that parenting. I consider that hurting and destroying and all sorts of other things, but not parenting, what they do. The reason is that it's the same when you are in the relationship with a narcissist. A narcissist does not know how to love. A narcissist needs supply to make themselves feel better, to take away that shame that they feel, whatever it is. Okay, so all the tactics that they used on you while you were with them, the gaslighting, the projection, the smear campaign, hoovering, all of that stuff, all they're doing now that you're out of their space, right? But they gotta weigh into your kids, right? They just do the same shit to the kids. And I'm telling you, I've seen it. It doesn't matter how young your kids are. I'm telling you, it happens. So yesterday we were talking about, I was talking about the illusions in when we were talking about divorce. right, is that one of the biggest mistakes we make going into a divorce is that we have these illusions that, for example, oh, he's never going to hurt me. I'm the mother of his children. He would never do that A, B, C to me. Yes, he will do A, B, C, D all the way to Z to you. The same thing with your kids. No illusions here. That's what killed me in the beginning. And that is how I stayed stuck in this place for a long time, because I was just stuck in this place of constant surprise, right? Like always asking, how could he do that? How could a father do that to his kids? How could a man do that to the mother of his children, right? So I spent, and we'll talk about that on the day that we talk about healing and recovery and how it's important to get out of victimhood, because these are victimhood questions, right? Is that I stayed in this place of surprise with these illusions that, oh, he would never hurt his kids, right? We need to be done with illusions. So whatever, you know, when you're going through this with your children, one of the things, the main thing that you have to do with your kids and this new life, right? So you may very well still be sort of in that, like I was, where you're in your cocoon of recovery, right? You've escaped, and you're not quite the butterfly yet. You're in your cocoon. You got your kids in there with you, and you're just, you know, hibernating and holed up and recovering and healing. So there are some things that you need to do to protect yourself and your children. Yes, like Emily says, you get rid of the illusions, right? You come to a point where you realize they're capable of absolutely anything. Anything. The lowest point you could think up in your mind, they will go lower. Promise. I promise. Okay, so let's start with the guilt. Let's start with the mom guilt, first of all. Y'all know, as mothers, we have guilt because we birth it, right? We have, you know, like when my kids came out, then the placenta, and then big old bag of guilt, right? It's just there. We know that. You have it. Okay, the guilt is not going to help you in this situation, right? Because what the guilt is, and guilt looks like this. When I look back on the relationship, when I look back on my marriage, I had incredible guilt for staying too long. And the reason that I had such guilt for staying too long is because I realized, when I started looking back, I realized that what my children, all three of my boys, were learning about, just as I learned from modeling, my mother and father modeling for me, right? I mean, they model different shit, but what I was modeling for my boys was that fathers and husbands are allowed to treat their wives like that. And the reason they know that they're allowed to do that is because the wives are staying and putting up with it, okay? This is the modeling that's going on. So I carried incredible guilt for this, right? Because I had always wanted to be one of those strong, you know, females, models for my boys, not only for their future, but just so how they go into the world and treat women in general, right? So I had always wanted to be a strong female model for them, to show that, hey, no, women don't put up with this. They deserve to be respected. They deserve to be cherished and loved and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, well, meanwhile, I'm modeling totally the opposite. Of course, I had a lot of guilt over this. I may still have a little. I may. I almost stuck it in. All right, so the point is, this guilt, okay, it's not helping you, it's not helping your children. Whenever you got out, good for you, you got out. Let's start over, okay? No matter how old your children are, start over now, okay? You can, let's rectify the past by changing what you're doing now. You can't go back. You can't. I couldn't go back and leave earlier like I wanted to. So you can change it now. So when you're going through, again, whether or not, if you're in the divorce process, it's going to add a whole other pain in the ass for you when dealing with your kids. Okay, so one of the ways to also just maintain your sanity is that, what is the one thing that narcissists do not respect and do not even believe in? That would be boundaries. That would be your boundaries, right? You've crossed every one. Maybe you didn't even used to have any, like I didn't for a while there. Boundaries. So when you step up now as, okay, I'm single mom now, and I've got the kids now, and we're gonna, create this new life for ourselves, and where, the other parent may still very much be involved because of custody and stuff like that. It's up to you to, right from the beginning, and even if you're in the middle of it now, there's no late time. It's never too late to start, okay? Is to create boundaries. The reason you want to create boundaries is because if you don't, it's going to be a shit show, and you're going to be emotionally depleted and worn out all over again. Because now you have the narcissist who is purposely and intently trying to stir the pot with your kids, right? Whether it's lying to your kids about shit or turning them against you or what, all the stuff that they do, and I guarantee you they're doing it, right? These are not good parents, people. Narcissists, no, they never win Parent of the Year award, ever, never. Okay, so what do those boundaries look like? The first boundary you have to establish is communication. I went through this process. I learned all this kind of by trial and error. That's why I do what I do today, because I don't want y'all to have to go through the extensive amount of time that I had to in learning these things, right? So I want to shorten the process for you. Communication boundaries. I don't care. Okay. When you hear all the people talk about, when you hear Gwyneth and her ex talk about how great they're co-parenting their kids and that, and you hear these like Hollywood stars who like are still like Mariah Carey and Nick Cannon, and how they are like friends because they respect each other, that they're the parent of these children that they love, right? Okay, none of that applies to you. None of that applies to you. So don't buy into it, meaning that don't think that you have to work harder to work with your ex, with this ex narcissist. No, because all you're doing is opening a door up for your own pain and heartache. That's it. You open a door for them, they're coming in to do some damage, right? So boundaries, you have to start with communication. I will also say that, for example, in my experience, this was the most important part of it, is this boundary and communication, because since I was still at the fresh beginning of the recovery and healing process, I was still very much hurting. I was still heartbroken. I was still in pain. I was still suffering physically, emotionally, all of that stuff. So if his name just popped up in my email, or I saw him calling on the phone, or if he showed up at the, all that, it just sent me into a tailspin. Because every time, and again, I didn't have any boundaries at the time. It was like, okay, I'll talk to you here, however you want to talk to me, however you want to reach me, I'm here for you. Because I was under the, I was still under the conditioning of, well, in order to be a good mother, I have to work with him and I have to listen to what he says, right? Oh, that was a big mistake. And I wasted a lot of time in that place. So here's what I tell, because and I'm thinking of like 3 women that I work with right now who are smack in the middle of this, right? Who are establishing boundary, firm boundaries. And even then, just because you create boundaries, that doesn't mean the narcissist is going to follow it, which means you have to be adamant about protecting your boundaries. Defend, 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 defend to the death your boundaries, right? Because they're going to, I told you yesterday in the divorce, is they're like a wolf, wearing out their prey until their prey just gets exhausted. So don't let them wear you down. What this looks like in communication means like, just thank God for the internet. Thank God for technology, right? Because you don't have to talk to them on the phone anymore. No reason. No reason. There's no reason they need to text you or call you or anything else when you have email. There's no reason, because because all you want to do is talk about the kids, and within that, so you don't want to talk about anything else, nothing else, nothing. You don't want to get into any conversations. I know this is for some of you who are still at the very beginning and who are really tender and maybe still have some of those illusions or have normalized what you've been through. I've been there, so I did it too. It's totally natural that you would do this. So this may go against your very nature to do this. I know it did mine, because I had to stand up and say, no, we're doing this my way, not your way. My way, period. And there's no discussion. Of course, that just, poked the bear, and the beast came alive again. But I just had to keep establishing those boundaries. And the fact is that there was no reason I would need to talk to him about anything about our children except for, when are you picking them up? What time are you going to arrive? How long are you going to have them? Give me the itinerary, period. Okay? In that communication. So again, and like I said, I think there's 3, maybe 4 women who are just like right in the middle of divorce, custody, all of that. And one of the women, oh man, she's got a, whew, wow, he's just, he's a piece of work. So she will write him one sentence, right? Could you please make sure you take, because he's not taking the kids to daycare, they're supposed to be on a consistent schedule, right? Narcissists will always cause you problems. They'll never do what they say they're going to do, and blah, blah, blah. So all she did was ask him a question. It was one sentence, short sentence, one question. And then come the emails, right? The long emails of all the projection and the smearing and the you're a terrible mother and all of this. So a lot of you already know. Like Anna is saying that when her ex gets upset, he sends her voice messages. There is no, you need to stand up for yourself. There is no reason to tolerate this shit, this harassment, this bullying, this nothing. Because he can't take you to court, right? Because you're not talking about the kids' well-being or whatever. He wants to know, more personal stuff. No. The only thing that you need to do, and I wish you didn't even need to do this, but you need to follow your custody and the law and whatever, because you don't want to get in trouble and risk anything happening to your kids, right? So at the bare necessity thing that should be done is that you communicate on this very, very limited scale with your ex. I got to a point where I weeded it down to now it's solely emails, period. If this was established long ago, because they're like, what if I need to get a hold of you? And you don't need to get a hold of me unless the kids happen to be with you and there is an emergency that you need to immediately get a hold of me. Fine, call me. He still has my number. If it's not a dire emergency that has to do with the kids, email me. Period. You know why you want, this brings me to my second point. You know why you want to stick all your communication to email? For documentation. You can't record, you can't document the stuff he's telling you on the phone, right? And so you, or that if he sees you in person. So you need to document every single little thing about what's going on with your kids, and what's, because, you know, maybe your kids will come home and say, hey, this happened. Again, don't underestimate, and we can't, unfortunately, we don't have enough time to get into all the shit that narcissists do to their kids, but it can get pretty awful, right, and hurt your kids. So again, don't downplay, just like I've talked about in the past about this normalizing, right? What you may be used to and how he treats your kids, you need to stop normalizing it and see it for what it really is, right? So, and if you need to, let's say you are in some sort of custody thing or whatever else, you need to establish a pattern, because the narcissist is going to paint you as the crazy one, as the one who's alienate, as the one who's the parental alienation. You've heard that word. It's overused, and I will tell you this, that parental alienation is a great tool that a narcissist uses to accuse you, okay? So you want to document everything, every little detail. If in doubt, write it down. Like, what? Get a little notepad in your, or whatever. Write it down. Write everything down. You may never need it, but write it down. I'm telling you, if I wish I would have written every single thing down in that first year, especially. But eventually, you know, now it's all emails. That's it. Makes it super easy for you. Okay. The other, okay, let's talk about how to talk to your kids. We don't have time to go into different ages. Obviously, you know, the conversation is going to be different depending on their age, right? Here's what you do. Here's what I did. Again, these are things that I learned from to share with you. You're going to make mistakes. I made mistakes. What you can do is, just because you do care about your kids' well-being, their safety, their emotional health, right? So here are some things that you can do to help. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have breakdown once in a while. Trust me, because this is hard to get through. Yes, and let me just go on, because Carla's bringing up a great thing about email and communication, okay? And I became a master at this, people. I became a master. When you get an email from them, don't respond right away. Don't respond. There's never, I can't even think of a reason, because if there was an emergency, like a dire emergency, a life-threatening emergency, they just call you, right? There is never a reason to respond to them right away. In the beginning, I used to respond right away because I had been conditioned to, oh my God, he's asking a question. Oh my God, I got to answer him, or he's going to do X, Y, Z to me, right? So I was in fear all the time. So even if you're still in that place of fear of, uh-oh, what's he going to do, right? You need to learn how to let it sit. Just let the email, whatever it is, especially. The other thing I became a master at is these long, oh my God, these long emails about the past, about what a shitty mother I was, about how I'm doing this and this and that and the other. And God, it was just endless. So what I got really good at, because they were so long all the time, and they did give me a stomachache to read them through detail by detail, because I'm going through and I'm like, that's a lie, that's a lie, 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 lie. And then I'd want to defend myself, and that's why I would write back right away and be like, hey, let me tell you and answer every single thing you said, right? So I got to a point where I would just sort of scan it for anything I needed to know, like, okay, what time are you picking me, or what day are we scheduling them to fly to see you, you know? And also just, again, just ignore the shit that narcissists say. You already know this because you were with them. You were married to them. You were in a relationship with them. You already know what they do. You know they're pathological liars. You know they're going to smear you behind your back. You know they're going to triangulate you, maybe with your, you know what they're going to do. So just, you know, keep it absolutely your communication only to the kids. Okay, so talking, I want to get to talking to the kids. I'm just going to be able to touch on everything briefly, but just to give you some ideas to sort of, I don't know, just be able to let you take a breath today and just relax. And because I know how hard it is when you're in the middle of it and you can't stop the narcissist from hurting your kids. Getting rid of the illusions, knowing what they're going to do. So one of the things, and again, don't pay attention to what everybody else says. Oh, this is how you do it when you're you know, when you're divorced and you're co-parenting with somebody. Don't listen to those people. They don't know what they're talking about. This is a different situation. It's not two healthy people who have gotten a divorce and who are respecting each other as parents of these children you love. No, no. So we're not doing that. That's done. You are over here trying to parent your kids in spite of having a parent who's working against you at every turn, okay? So that's going to look very differently than what Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris Martin do, right? You ain't taking vacations with them, with their new partners, or, you know, because y'all love the kids so much. No, you're not doing that. So you need to function differently. You need to create new rules for yourself. So one of the things with your kids, and I know this sounds even kind of contrary to what you should do, and it, you know, I had to get into a rhythm of it. Now I'm super good at it. But one of the things with your kids is that, and again, you know your kids better than anybody. Don't doubt that. Don't doubt it. No matter what the narcissist is telling you, you know, like the one woman I work with, I was telling you about, she's constantly getting the, you're a horrible mother, you're da 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 da. I got that, you know, I got my ex very recently, not this year, but very recently, wrote a long ass smear letter to one of our son's schools. This was a school where he, you know, my ex knew nobody. He had never been in contact with anybody. He didn't know anything about the school. He had not even stepped in the school for like 5 years. He didn't know anything about anything. He was totally uninvolved. He sends a smear letter out of the blue saying that I don't even know. I had a good laugh about it with the headmaster because she knows me. Okay. So the thing is that you know that they're going to do this, and what I need to tell you is that don't stop, get that voice of the narcissist of your ex out of your head telling you you're a shitty mother. You're not, okay? If you're here and you're listening to the stuff and you're stressed out or hurting because your kids are hurting, that makes you a great mother, okay? Because you're trying to help them through this. That doesn't mean you're not gonna make mistakes, but you're not the fucking narcissist who's evil and trying to hurt your kids, okay? So that's what you need to know, and that you need to function and go off that and live by that. You are a good mother and your kids need you. They need you. So you are the best judge of whatever their age is. Like for me, I had 3 different ages. So they all had different experiences because of their age, of how to tell them and talk to them. Here's a couple of rules when you talk to your kids, okay? Don't talk to them that much about it. What you want to do is you want them to come to you, okay? You don't want to go to them and tell them. You definitely do not badmouth your ex. No, do not badmouth them, whatever. Don't even, if you can help it, don't bring them up. That's what I did, right? Just live your life. You're in your house, you're in your cocoon, right? Let's just pretend they don't exist, right? You just go along with your kids and, you know, but you want to establish a place of safety for them, because you have to understand that when they are with a narcissist parent, it's not safe for them. There's turmoil. They may not be able to, they won't be able to put it into words, especially if they're young. They won't be able to figure things out. But there's not safety there. So you need to establish that safe place. So I'll give you an example. With my 3 boys, but especially my 2 younger ones, because my oldest was, out of the house, 18, 19 years old at this point. So I could talk to him about a lot of shit, which is great. So I mainly had this conversation with my 2 youngest who were still living at home, and just basically, because there was all this stuff going on outside, right? Like all this turmoil, trauma, divorce, custody, then that other little nagging thing he was doing, like stalking and trying to ruin my entire life for 2 years. So all this shit's going on outside, and I just wanted them to know, and I would tell them often, especially if they were either going to see him or after they came. I would just reiterate, there are a lot of things I can't tell you because they're for grown-ups. But if there's something you ask me, you can ask me anything. And some things I won't be able to tell you, but if I can't tell you, I'll tell you why I can't tell you. Usually, depending on their age, it's because this is a grown-up subject. And, but if I can't answer your question, I will. And you can ask me anything, and I will always tell you the truth. Now, this may seem just like simple words to tell, but when you have a narcissist who is a pathological liar and who is smearing you and triangulating you between your kids, right? It's super important that you reiterate over and over and over again to your kids. I'm not going to lie to you. You can trust me. I'm not going to lie to you. Then you prove that by not really saying much, okay, to them about what you're going through, about what's happening. Again, you're going to make mistakes, okay? Like maybe your kid comes home and, not saying this happened to me, and says, well, why don't you have this or whatever? And I could tell that it's like his father's voice coming right out of his mouth, right? And so I've made my mistakes in my answers. But for the most part, just establishing a safe place. And what a safe place means is that you're not the one going to them to tell them who their father is. I know this is tempting. I know this is super tempting, especially after you do all the work and you're like, oh yeah, he's a narcissist. Fucking A, yeah, he's a narcissist. And you want to tell your kids, hey, be careful, because you love them and you want to protect them. And no, just, Here's what I have learned. And what it was the hardest thing for me to do, because I had to bite my tongue until it bled a lot of the time, okay? But here's what I've learned and how my kids, they didn't get through it unscathed by any means, but I feel like they were saved a great deal of pain and suffering because of it. I didn't tell my kids who their father was. I let them figure that out for themselves. That doesn't mean I stood back and just let things happen to them, right? Like lies and stuff like that. That's not what that means. It means that I let them figure it out so they could come to me and ask. I would tell them the truth. I will tell you that, and it was different with all 3 of my kids, and that's why one of them still has a relationship and the other 2 do not. These were choices that they made, that my older 2 have made the choice, right? Nobody made that choice for them. And I wanted them, and sometimes your kids are going to make choices that wouldn't be your first choice. And you just have to support them. You have to support them in this search, right? Okay, so when you're allowing them to figure it out, and it may take until they are, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. My middle son was around 17 when it all came together for him, right? I'm gonna sneeze. It's a balance. It's a fine line you gotta walk, You know, it's a super thin line that you have to walk as a mother. I will use myself as an example. So I established a place of safety that you can come to me. I'm not going to lie to you. And also, I'm going to model for you. Okay? So while you're learning over there what lying and just not good things, when you're learning the not so good things over there in that environment, you're going to come here to our home, right? And I'm going to model for you what it is to be a good person, what it is not to lie, what it is, you know, how to treat others, so forth and so on. One of the things, one of the things where I do talk to my sons, because they're boys, I mean, what I think is really important for my boys, because I don't want them to turn into, I don't want them to treat anybody the way that I was treated. So one thing that I do and have always done is that even if it is their own father, I do stand up for myself and I let them know, no, this is unacceptable. I know it's your father, but it's unacceptable that he does this. It's unacceptable to me, period. Right? So that's where I do step out and talk to them, right? But beyond that, I just create the space for them to come to me. I wish if you just did all these things that everything would be great and there'd be no problems. And unfortunately, everybody's got a story out there. You know, narcissists are just so toxic to the family unit that unfortunately there are casualties, right? And our kids do suffer, extremely so. So utilizing, let me just make sure there was another thing on my list. Just making sure that you know, your kids know that they can come to you with all the chaos that a narcissist is going to bring to your parenting role, right? You have to understand that they're going to be doing all this stuff constantly. Like, it hasn't stopped for me either. You know, with my youngest, it hasn't stopped. It's lessened, but it hasn't stopped because narcissists are relentless. They're going to keep this shit up. So you need to be really good at learning how to deal with it, protect those boundaries of yours, take care of your kids, and let them figure out a lot of the stuff for themselves. What I mean by that is, don't tell them. That's how you're going to avoid talking negatively about your ex in front of them. Okay. And I know we're going to make mistakes here and there. How can we not? It's super hard to zip it all the time. I just want to make sure there's no questions in the email. I love this, that you guys can also offer each other support and suggestions. Yes, biting your tongue till it bleeds. Yeah, I got scars in there for sure. It's going to be hard I will tell you that when my kids, especially when they were younger, my two youngest, and they'd have to go what I call the dark side. So when they'd come back from the dark side, and they would have that adjustment period, because my oldest son once told me, because he would have to do that, you know, that so my oldest son, this is insight, right, from the kids' mouths themselves, from the mouths of babes. So my oldest son told me that what it was like when he would have to go to the other parent, and there was manipulation, and there were lies, and there were, you know, bad mouthing me, for example, or that triangulation and tricks and head games and all that stuff. So he would go into a sort of a self-protection place where he would be who his father wanted him to be, so that he could survive the visitation, right? I'm not talking physically. I'm talking emotionally. So he would go into a place where it's like, okay, like just automatic self-protection of I'm going to be this way so that I don't rock the boat with the narcissist, right? Because then he would come home and there would be oh hell, there used to be a long adjustment process that he would come back into. Sometimes it'd last like a week, and the reason is because he was letting down. Okay, he was letting down, and like, okay, I can be myself here. Okay, this is the safe place, right? Because when kids are young, they're unequipped. They are not equipped at all to handle this shit. These are just, it's too heavy for kids, right? Even teenagers, even young teenagers, it's too much. Then you have the added, and this is the last thing that I'll say before we wrap up here today. But for those of you who have more than one child with the narcissist, okay, if you are going through dealing with the different way that they treat their children, and maybe you even had a parent who was a narcissist, and so you know this firsthand because you were the child, right? So there is, for example, there's the scapegoat, there's the golden child. In my case, with the 3, the oldest was ignored. The middle was the scapegoat, couldn't do anything right. The youngest was the golden child, couldn't do anything wrong. So not only were they emotionally manipulated and affected because how they were treated differently, but then their relationship with each other grew very, very complicated. Very complicated. And that was something that I had to deal with, right? Is because I had watched these 2 children of mine be treated completely different by their father. And this is from the time that they were toddlers, right? So that takes a huge toll on kids. And that's why I said, I don't know on what day I said it on, but this whole thing about, I had initially stayed because I thought, well, I don't want to break up the family, right? I don't want my kids to come from a broken home. That's why my home was already broken, right? I saved it. I'm rebuilding it. We're not broken anymore. But that's where the brokenness is. So you tell all those people who are like, oh, you're a single mom, you have a broken home. Bullshit. You now you're putting together your home, right? You're fixing it from what was broken. So what was broken from the start is that the 2 youngest, right? So just to give you an idea, and this was in all things, all the time, every single day, constant, from the time they were little, okay, is that our middle son was the scapegoat, meaning that there was nothing he could do right in his father's eyes, nothing. And his father often yelled at him, got physical with him. It was just there was an aggression there constantly, while our youngest was he was the golden child. He could do nothing wrong, right? This caused great grief with the rest of our family because I became bad cop, right? So my ex would set me up with our youngest because he had his father wrapped around his little finger, right? And he could get whatever he wanted. And if I tried to instill any rules or, hey, don't talk to your mother like that, he wasn't having it because he's like, well, Dad says that I haven't done anything wrong, right? So you can imagine how this like screws up all the relationships in a family. So if you can picture these 2, and this is why, it's not scarred over yet, right? Because this wound that I have when it comes to my kids, because when I look back, I'm like, oh, if I just would have left at that time, I could have helped them avoid that and all of that. Yeah, I know you don't have to, I know. I'm not carrying the guilt. I'm just telling you that that's why the wound's open, right? Is that, but I get it. I'm trying not to regret it. Anyway, because I saw my little innocent kids be used as props, right? As decorations for, this is his family. They were almost like ornaments he'd wear around his neck at social events, right? Whereas behind closed doors, here are these two little boys, just 2 years apart in age. And I'll just give you an example, and this is the theme of their whole, young childhood. My middle son would walk into his office and ask him a question. Immediately, his father's voice was, menacing. Why are you interrupting me? Where did you put my hammer? Just blame and go away. You're bothering me. That kind of, with that tone in his voice, right? My youngest could go in with the exact same question an hour later. Exact same question. Oh, babe. Look, oh, I'm so glad you're here. You get it. This screws up kids like nobody's business, okay? So this is what I had to put back together at the same time that their father, after, when we're recovering and stuff and we're not together anymore. So the way that I got through it, again, was establishing those boundaries for myself, communication boundaries. Super, super, super important if you want to get through this without killing somebody. We don't want physical harm to come to anybody, right? We're not advocating that. So boundaries, also get rid of illusions. Stop thinking that he would never do this to our kids. Yeah, he will. He will. You choose the lowest point that you think would be his lowest point, and then watch him as he'll accept that challenge and he'll go lower. Promise you. So be prepared for that and don't put up with the illusions. Okay, I'm just looking through, make sure there's no more questions. And for those of you who maybe I didn't get to your comments, read through all the comments because there's some great advice in here. Great advice. Since oh my God, we could, seriously, look, it's already been an hour. Like, we could talk forever and ever in a day about this subject. So anyway, the point being, you are a good parent. You wouldn't be here talking and listening and trying to get help for your kids, right? If you were the narcissist, you wouldn't be here. Well, you might be stalking me. That's true, if you were the narcissist, but so don't doubt yourself. You've got this. Your kids need you, and they're lucky to have you. They're not lucky in that they got a narcissist for a parent, right? But they're lucky to have you. You're going to help them get through this. You're going to hold their hand. You're going to be honest with them. You're going to create that safe space for them. Don't stir the pot when it comes to, don't confuse them even more by bad-mouthing your ex. I know it's tempting, but use your best girlfriends to do that, or, whatever you need to do. Just don't do it with your kids. Okay. You're going to get through this. I promise. It's not going to be easy. I still deal with things, if you want to call it that. But I've got this. And the bottom line is, no matter what happens, I know that I did everything in my power with all three of my kids. I know that I did everything in my power. And there are some things that are simply out of my control. There's some things with your kids that are simply going to be out of your control. Decisions they make when they grow up, when it comes to the other parent, or there's just some things. So you need to keep yourself healthy and be there for them, right? As their mom. As Emily says, the reassurance is priceless. And you're talking, yes, so I'm talking about how the reassurance for your kids also, right, is that I just can't say it enough, just to create that safe space. And when his voice comes in your head and says all the shitty things he does about your parenting, right? Because narcissists love to go after you for your parenting. Love it. That's their top thing to do. You know why they go after you? That's why my ex always was constantly insulting me about being a mother. It's because he knew from the time we first got together is that being a mother was the most important thing to me. And being a good mother was the most important thing to me. So that was my weak point to him. That was the button to push. And he's still pushing it. Now he doesn't affect me. Because fuck him. I know what a great mother I am. And I know what a shitty parent he is, right? Because I've seen it. Even, let's say it all changed tomorrow. The fact is that this is what I've seen. And these are the facts. So just remind yourself of what the facts are. Go to your gut instinct, your intuition, right? And that girl within, she's going to remind you that you're a great mom. You've got this. Keep doing what you're doing. Forgive yourself for the little mistakes you're going to make. You're going to make them. It's okay. And just go forward with an open heart, with compassion, with integrity when it comes to your kids. And then you won't have anything to regret later. Okay. All right. So to wrap up today, again, I'm going to let you know that tomorrow is a super big day for me, and I want to share it with all of you. I'm super excited. I'll just say it has to do with my book. Right now it's on ebook. You can get it on Kindle or read it on your computer. Just go to my website, SusannaKeithana.com, if you want to download a free copy. That's cool. But this is bigger. This is bigger and better what's happening tomorrow. So I would love for you to be a part of it. All right. Another reminder is that I am here for you. And here I got to talk and copy and paste at the same time. This is not easy for me. Copy. Okay, so I'm putting my link in here too. Yes. You want to hop on a call with me and tell me more about your situation. I'm here for you. You know, by this time, for those of you who have been watching me for a while now, you know that I'm on the same journey as you. I just happen to be farther along the road. So I do have the perspective and hindsight to help you get through it. Because when we're in it, in that fog, in that darkness, and we're all alone, it's tough as hell to get through it, right? And it takes 5 times as long, like what happened to me, because I had nobody. So, you know, if you just want somebody to hold your hand on that journey, schedule. I have a couple days left to open, couple times left to open this week, and I have one time next Monday or 2 times that I opened up, and I'll try to open up some more for next week. So let's chat. What have you got to lose, right? Okay. Also, September 14th, if you're in the Reno area, Chris Godinez and I are going. We travel around the country. We talk to small groups about everything narcissist. And if you don't know, a lot of you know Chris, but she is awesome, amazing. You can look her up on Facebook. I'm going to put in the event schedule here. If you are in and around Reno on September 14th, I think there's a couple tickets left. I don't know because I'm not in charge of that stuff. But it's great because, and that's why we limit it to a small group of people. We want it to be intimate. We want to provide you with a safe space to come share your story, get a hug, get a free hug, and just get some support and guidance on your journey. It's a super relaxed, chill, fun couple of hours, and it's just nice to be with people who get you, right? I get you. I get it. I get it. Okay. All right. Much love to all of you who are struggling right now, going through the hell of, remember, we're not co-parenting with a narcissist, right? You're parenting in spite of the narcissist. That's what's happening. If you want more information about that, Google parallel parenting with a narcissist. You'll have shit to read for years about that. Great, a lot of other great tips and stuff like that. So for all of you, I know the pain and suffering. Just You're going to get through this. Your kids need you. So they need a healthy and happy mama, right? So, so do what you need to, do what you need to do to take care of yourself. And you're not alone. You're not alone. Okay, we will talk tomorrow. Yay! Yay! I'm so excited for tomorrow. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.